here at Central Online Homeschool. So first of all, if you come in and you haven't signed up our official sign up form, scan your QR code here, but I think you guys all have. Awesome. So how this class is going to work is that this is our simple overview. So at the beginning of class, we'll all come in, there's going to be an icebreaker, then we're going to do a lecture, and then a group activity, and then an assignment. So the icebreaker for today is, what is your experience with photography? Mia, would you like to go first?
I don't have a lot of experience with photography. I mean, I guess if you can count, like, you know, pulling out your phone every now and then to capture, you know, random things, I do enjoy that.
Awesome.
I don't have, like, a camera, but yeah.
Well, you don't necessarily have to have a camera to be a photographer. Even though I have like 5 professional years of photography experience, it's actually more like 10, because the first 5 years before I even got a camera, I was on my phone. Smartphone photography is a real thing, and it does help reinforce the core skills that you need for photography. So I think that counts. Leslie?
Yeah, I don't really.
No?
Yeah.
Alrighty. So, since you use phones, which is better, iPhone or Android? Alright, let's go.
I don't really use the phone.
iPhone?
I use a phone too. I once took this picture of a menu at IHOP, which was Sonic themed.
Awesome.
I got a better shot than my mom did.
And then, do you have any photography experience?
No, my dad usually takes our camera whenever we go, when we used to go on trips.
Okay. Is your dad a photographer, or just likes to do it as a hobby?
He usually do it just to capture memories in our trips.
That's awesome. A lot of people actually start out as hobbyists, and that's a great thing. You need to love this before you can really invest yourself into it. And that's where you'll see the true growth. And finally, what about your experience?
Well, I do take a little bit of photos every now and then. The Sonic IHOP menu was kind of like an experience that I wanted to get a better quality than my mom. My mom's not really good with it.
I know.
I love my mom, but yeah.
I mean, I get the feeling. I'm the photographer of my family, so everyone comes to me to take photos, and they come out well. And then when I need a photo, well, yeah.
Low quality, but it's not the worst.
So, a little about me. Yes, I do have experience in photography. Well, I'm not an official teacher. I say with all my years, I can definitely teach you guys a lot of good stuff that you can use if you want to pursue this as a hobby, professionally, or even further into the future.
Oh no,
So,
I can't see it on my end.
let's just want to show you a couple of photos of people that I have
Oh,
worked
that
with.
is cool.
Christmas photos.
Yes, so my last client I worked with was with the Alumni Association at Fresno State. Fresno State is the local CSU college in town. This is their staff right there.
So basically, all you're gonna
Some
do
other
is
photos here.
is
This is
pop
from,
those numbers in.
I worked with Victor the Bulldog, so that's the mascot as well. This is his holidays photo. It's a little bit pixelated right now just because we're on this big screen. And so, yeah, that's Victor right there. It's for his holiday shoot. He's a little ghost.
And a little
Total
bow.
income.
I also love taking landscape photos, and animal photos as well. Here's a little guy right there.
Squirrel.
Okay.
I've also worked with, there's more pictures of Victor here. Do any of you have Miss Holmes in your, no? So this is Miss Holmes. If you don't know, she does work at
Oh yeah.
COHS as well. She is one of our models.
Hey, Miss Holmes reminds me of my little sister's old teacher. She, Miss Holmes was from my little sister's.
I've also done weddings and proposals as well, as long as quinceañeras. This is some of our staff photos right here. This is at our district. You can see all the staff right there.
Yeah.
Funny enough, speaking of Hawaiian, this is a whole new Hawaiian flavor. It's alright.
What flavor is it?
It's just like a bad version of fruit punch. These are my nephews right here. When I went to Carlsbad. Carlsbad is by San Diego. This is my friend Elijah here. He also helps me. This is a photo from one of our short films. I also love doing food photography. This was actually featured on the Downtown's Instagram page.
Are you a YouTuber? You said you and your friend create short films.
Yeah, we do it when the challenge arises, usually for competition. So we got more here. These are some photos from graduation.
Wow, you took a lot of
Oh,
photos.
I'm a doggy.
You took a lot of photos.
So there's a lot and a lot and a lot. Let's go back here. How do I go full screen? There you go. So, what is photography? The definition of photography, if we want to get a literal definition, is derived of two Greek words, phos and graphi. What does phos mean?
Light.
Light. What does graphi mean?
Drawing.
So let's do some word math. What's graphi and drawing?
Drawing with light.
Awesome. And while it's little on the nose, and it's a little more complicated than that, that is a great way to think about photography. So photography in everyday life, you can use in various fields like art, journalism, social media, and advertising. So, what is the most memorable photo you've seen and why? Leslie? Hello, hello? Yes, one
This is
second.
Leslie. This is Mia. This is Kenji, and I'm Serena.
Nice to meet you, I'm Isabella.
Thank you, Serena. Serena, I'm David Castillo, the instructor.
Isabella,
Nice to meet you. Let me check to see if this is recording. So thank you for coming in. If you want to catch up, we barely just started. But if you do want to catch up to the things that we kind of just covered right now, we are recording the entire lecture and that will be on the website. You can review that at a later date.
I love your necklace.
Thank you.
So the most memorable photo. A memorable photo can be something that stands out to you visually. It has something that has an emotional weight to it, like a favorite family portrait, stuff like that. Maybe it's with your friends.
I have one of my dogs, but she died.
Mhm.
I'm sorry for the loss.
What kind of dog was she?
She was a mixed Shih Tzu, I think.
Oh, Shih Tzu. I love Shih Tzus. Mia.
I'd say when I was younger, but of me, my mom, and my dad.
That's nice. You know, the family photos, like, they used to be a big thing, like early 2000s, and now they kind of like side away, but they're kind of starting to come back with those big family portraits that you see up there on the wall. That's also another thing you can do in photography. You take family photos. How about you?
I have two memorable photos. One is when my grandpa before he died.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Thanks. And I also have another picture where my little sister was like months old and she was so cute.
What about you, Serena?
I have, so, on December 20, I think I have the same explanation as him. On December 20, I went to a Sonic meet and greet, and it was the best day of my life.
That's awesome.
And the second photo was a photo of my dad.
Awesome. And finally, what's the most memorable photo you've had?
I would also say a pet. I had a little Persian cat. He didn't get to grow up and live his life, but he did pass away.
I'm sorry for your loss.
I've heard Persian cat. Was there a really big fluffy Persian cat?
Yeah.
How'd you deal with all that hair? Could they
You have
hear?
to brush it every day. 'Cause
Oh,
they're
really?
tangled.
But then when you do that, the hair's like really soft and everything.
Yeah,
That's
it
a lot.
is.
All right, and I do apologize. I am kind of getting over something that I caught earlier in the week. So if I'm not as loud, I may be. So if you need me to repeat something, don't hesitate to ask. So first, we're gonna take a look at history. And you might be like, "What? I came here for cameras. Why do I gotta learn about history?" There's a great quote from the book 1984 by George Orwell. If you guys haven't read it, I suggest you read it in the future. And it says, the person that controls the past controls the present, and whoever controls the past controls the future. What that means is that you have to look at where things have been to know where you're gonna go. And so I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have had this idea of, you see probably photographers at parties, stuff like that, you see people taking photos, you see it in more like a hobby sense or like a side thing. But in reality, there's a rich historical timeline of events that have progressed, that have made photography to the day to what it is now. And in order to know about this, you can really understand the art form, and also that will help you as you're taking photos as well. So, the origins of photography, the birth of an art form. The camera obscura, 9th century BCE. The camera obscura is this ancient optical device that projects an image of its surroundings onto the surface through a small hole. It was used by artists as a drawing aid, but it couldn't capture permanent images. You can equate this to, if you guys, I don't know if you guys were alive by then, early 2000s, teachers used to use a little projector and it would shine light, and it would bounce, and then they could like trace things out and stuff like that. It was very similar, except it didn't use mirrors. There's a phenomenon where you see this little hole here. Whatever is captured through this hole in this big dark box will then illuminate on the exterior wall. However, it would be inverted. Just something with a phenomenon. It's very real, and so, like the quote says, that's how people were able to see images, but they couldn't capture them. It was always moving. So, now let's talk about the first permanent photograph. So Joseph here in 1826 created the first known permanent photograph. It's called View from the Window at La Grasse, using a process called heliography, with an exposure time of almost 8 hours. And because it's the first photo, I rate it 1 out of 10. The quality isn't the best, but it was new developing technology at the time. And there's actually a bunch of technology about how they created it. So, we'll get there eventually. Finally, next in the innovation of photography, we have the daguerreotype, something like that. So Lewis here developed the daguerreotype, which produced highly detailed images on a silver copper plate. It became popular for portraits because of its sharpness, but had a major limitation. Each image was irreproducible. Sorry.
Irreproducible.
There you go. You guys are smart. So this is how it kind of looks right here. So you have the focusing element right here. Had a big. So you remember the big box from earlier? We shrunk it down, and this here would kind of hold the plate there, and so it would come in and then boom. But they couldn't reproduce it without taking the image again. Here's a video explaining how that even works. Give me 1 second. Where's my sound at? Yeah, wait for my speakers.
This was the world that Joseph Nicephore Niepce was living in.
I like this music. It's very calming.
Yeah, that's
Joseph Nicephore Niepce created what's largely known as the world's first photograph. Although it's likely not the first photograph, it is one of the first photographs that we recognize as being a fixed image. It was known prior to this how to make a photograph, but the difficulty was how to get the image to be permanent. If you've ever spent time in a dark room and you skip the fixing stage, you'll know that after the image is made, it may look perfect at first or really good, but it'll eventually fade to black.
So, if you're wondering what a darkroom is, a darkroom room is just where they would develop the photo. It had to be completely dark, otherwise the photo would get ruined by the
similar
light.
to what the streets are paved out of. And for this exposure, it was a very long, slow exposure. So it would have had to have been for at least 8 hours or longer. This was something that he might have left looking out the window for an entire day. After the exposure to light, the image was then washed in a solution that removed the parts of the tar that were not hardened by the sunlight, and the resulting effect was fixing the image and making it permanent. The final result was a direct positive, likely from the amount of time that was used to expose. It basically developed out into a positive image rather than what we know of as a negative. Although it may not look impressive at first, you have to imagine that this was a world with no photographs. So the fact that Joseph was able to make a permanent fixed image.
So,
Love that music.
Sure, I guess you want to.
and then we have the calotype. So William Henry Fox Talbot introduced the calotype process, which allowed for creating negatives and positives, enabling multiple copies from a single image. If you're wondering what negatives and positives mean, this video is going to tell you right now. If I can click on it.
Yeah, where do you get 450 when it's 250 plus 0? Oh, never mind.
William Henry Fox Talbot revolutionized photography in Britain. He invented the first photographic negative process, which became the basis of virtually all photography that followed. Talbot was an expert in many fields, including chemistry and optics, the study of light and lenses. But Talbot could not master drawing. Instead, he looked to science for an alternative way to capture what he could see. In 1834, he began to experiment with ways to make and fix images using light and chemistry. Scientists already knew that silver, when combined with salts, was sensitive to light. With this in mind, Talbot coated paper in a solution of table salt, then a solution of silver nitrate, to make it light sensitive. This combination of chemicals caused the paper to darken in sunlight. To make an image, Talbot placed an object, like a leaf, on top of the sensitized paper and left it in the sun. The object blocked out the light, stopping the area underneath from darkening. This left a reverse impression of the object on the paper. The resulting images were known as photogenic drawings and became the first photographic negatives ever produced. Talbot went on to experiment with the process using homemade cameras. When he placed sensitized paper inside one of these, light reflecting off a subject traveled into the camera, making an image on the paper inside. Like photogenic drawings, the paper registered areas of light and dark in reverse, creating a negative.
That's what a negative
When
is.
Talbot placed one of
Think
these
of
negatives
like,
onto another sheet
what's
of
that one place in
sensitized
Stranger
paper
Things?
and exposed them to the
You
sun
know what
together,
Stranger
the
Things?
dark
Yeah.
areas of the negative blocked out the sunlight, while the white areas allowed the light to
Don't watch it
pass
yet.
through.
You might not be young enough to
This
hold it.
created a positive print. With this, Talbot had invented the groundbreaking negative to positive process. For the first time, multiple prints could be made from a single negative, which could be used again and again. Talbot patented his process in 1841 with the name calotype, which means beautiful impression in Greek. Talbot's invention of the negative to positive process led the way for photographers until digital technology arrived.
So,
Budget. Just put it in as your budget.
question. How do you think people reacted to this new technology?
I think they thought it would be impossible.
Okay. I mean, that's very true. I mean, if you look right now, AI, we think a lot of things are impossible and slowly proving us wrong. So it's kind of just in our habit to doubt things.
I don't really trust AI with making art because they just steal from other artists.
Well, we actually are going to talk about AI near the end because it will factor into photography. Honestly,
I don't know. I feel like they would be shocked.
remember, photographs basically do not exist at this point, and it took 8 hours to take one. I think their minds would have been blown away, don't you think? Right.
I would agree. They would be shocked to see how is that image so permanent and not black.
You wonder, do they really care about their appearance? You know, like some people, they're kind of like, like I don't look good in that photo. And like imagine you don't look good in the photo and you gotta take another 8 hours to take this one again. Mia, what about you?
I don't know. I just amazed. I would be. I don't know.
What about
I
you?
agree with everyone. I would say they would be very shocked, but also very amazed that they finally got a permanent photo or something.
Awesome. And actually, I can't show you this because then we have to go back through the entire video. But remember in the video where they showed the small little box?
Yeah.
And you saw that hole?
Yeah.
So in the big box that we saw, how that image was kind of put onto the other wall and it was flipped. Did you notice in this small box, there's a little glass element right there? Do you remember that? Well, that's what causes the image actually to flip upright. And so that solved the problem of the image being inverse. So that's also another advancement in technology. We added glass. So now let's look at photography as a milestone in society and culture. Photography and history. So before photography's inception, people used to rely on paintings and drawings in order to capture a moment onto paper. Here are some examples of milestones with photography. So in 1839, Robert Cornelius took the first selfie. How does he look? I mean, for the standard of the day, it looks pretty good. In 1843, we have John Quincy Adams. Anyone know who John Quincy Adams is?
No, not me.
He was a U.S. president, and he became the first one actually to take a photograph, and that's how we kind of started the whole presidential photos thing. And then in 1861, the American Civil War became the first war ever to be photographed, and that's actually going to create a big impact, a big difference into how we view events in life. So let's look at photography and science. In the scientific community, photography was used in the following ways. So photography enabled the study and documentation of scientific phenomena from celestial bodies to microscopic life. So this guy, I can't say his name, I forgot how to say his name. Motion studies in the 1870s used sequential photography to study the movement of animals and humans, contributing to the study of biomechanics. So essentially what happened, so this is a macro shot of a bug right here. You know, we would probably use this like a microphone or microscope in order to see the details of it. And a microscope is just a bunch of glass layers put into each other so you can zoom in. Now here, what happened here, I'm not going to say this guy woke up one day, but he probably did. And he was like, you know what? Does a horse ever leave the ground with all 4 feet? Yes or no? We got one yes.
When it jumps?
While it's running, does it leave the ground with all 4 feet?
I'm gonna say no.
So we got one yes, one no. Da, 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 da. I don't know if you guys watched that show before your time.
Yeah, so,
Yes or no? Yeah? Okay, we got 2 yeses, 3 yeses. Okay, so we got 4 yeses, 1 no. So the truth is yes. So how they accomplish this is they actually line up a bunch of cameras and they put them on tripwires, and as the horse ran, it would trigger them. And so they took the picture. So we read from left to right here. It's going and jumps, keep on jumping, 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 jumping. So technically left the ground, but it was jumping, so that's different. We keep on going, keep on going, keep on going. Oh, is it not here? There is one photo, and the horse does actually leave the ground. Now, what's cool about this, which they didn't realize, they actually created a whole another art form from that.
That's how videos work.
Exactly.
Stop motion.
Yes, stop motion video is essentially a bunch of pictures layered at a certain frame rate. I'm not going to get too much into that, but a lot of people kind of think the two are kind of very different, which they are, but they do have a foundational basis of the same principles. So, photography and social change. Remember about the American Civil War? Now we're coming back to it. Well, not to the American Civil War, but big events. So on a political, societal, and cultural level, photography contributed in multiple ways. Here are some examples. So Jacob here used photography to expose the poor living conditions in New York City tenements in 1890s work, which entire how the other half lives, which helped divide social reform. Photography continues to play a role in social movements from the civil rights to the 1960s to recent movements like the BLM movement. So this here, from how the other half lives, this was during a time in America where there was a big wealth gap. And so, and also a lot of things weren't regulated. So like child labor laws weren't in place, stuff like that. So actually back then you guys would probably have to go work, you know, at like 5 years old. Not the best time to be alive. And, you know, because of no regulations, a lot of people were getting hurt and stuff like that. Thing is, at this time, because technology is still developing, information doesn't travel as quick as it does now. Right now, we're called the information age because I can literally send a text message and what do you get it right there? Or my buddy in England could. You know, it's that quick. Back then, not that quick. So, photography helped shed the light of these poor kids. They're probably hungry. And the same thing here. And this is where photography starts to be able not only to tell a story, but to capture people's emotions and their values as well.
And spread awareness.
Mm-hmm. So, what impact do you think these images had on people's perspectives at the time? Particularly these photos. Now that photos are now talking about these social movements and stuff like that. Do you think we saw one of these photos, maybe from civil rights movement? Maybe you would have been more sympathetic to that?
Yeah.
And these kids here, maybe you'd be a little bit bigger advocate for child labor laws? So the evolution of photography technology. We're going to take a look at the timeline here. So right here, we got 1814, the camera obscura, that was the big box. Then we're going to jump about 70 years, and then we're going to have the first camera with film. So, from film to digital. George Eastman, which is the founder of Kodak, I'm not wearing my Kodak hoodie, but I'll wear it one day, introduced rolling film and made photography accessible to the masses with the slogan, "You press the button, we do the rest." I have a degree in marketing, and I think that's a great slogan. And so what this did is essentially, people would buy their cameras, and then they would take photos, but they couldn't develop them. So that's where the whole thing of darkrooms came in. So they would mail their photos in, and then they would produce them, and then they would mail them back out. Then, in 1900, from the same company, Kodak, they created the Kodak Brownie. So that made photography more affordable for the general public with this Kodak Brownie camera. As a result, a shift in consumer demand towards everyday photography increased. So instead of having to grab that big, huge box from the camera obscura, it was about probably it was still pretty good, maybe like the size of like this drink right here, but a little bit thicker. And so now I can go around and take pictures, almost like our phones. And then in 1948, you have the instant photography with Polaroid. Everyone ever heard of Polaroids?
Yeah.
So the Polaroid camera allowed users to see their photos instantly, a precursor to today's digital instant photography. And then we finally have the digital revolution. So digital cameras replace film, allowing easier storage, editing, and sharing of images. Now, fun fact, remember the company Kodak? So, they became so successful off film, providing that to the masses. Then digital starts coming around. And one of their employees like, hey, this is happening, we need to jump in on it. You know what they said? Nah. We'll get to it later. Nah. So you know what that employee does? He quits, and he runs to the company Sony. And at that point, Sony hires him. They start producing these digital cameras, and they start flooding the market. And that's how you get the rise of digital cameras. And you get the death of, not the death, film is still around, but is not really used as much. And as a result, Kodak goes bankrupt. And now they sell hoodies that I like to buy. And then finally, the present day. So we got the rise of smartphones and AI with built-in cameras, and they made photography a daily activity and powerful communication tool.
I don't really trust AI with me.
So finally, we're going to talk about the technological breakdown. So let's see. So remember how the image used to get speared into that silver tray that they had? Because of digital technology, that tray now turns into a digital sensor.
Function differently. On a very basic level, when you press the shutter button, a digital camera works by operating a mechanism called a shutter that then lets light through a hole that is in the lens, also called the aperture, onto a light-sensitive medium called a sensor. This sensor is digital and absorbs the light, then it captures the image. The light-detecting medium can be one of two types: a complementary metal oxide semiconductor, or CMOS image sensor, or a charge-coupled device. But that is not very important. They both serve the same function. In the most layman of terms, the image sensor converts all the light or picture from the lens into millions of pixels. The sensor measures color and brightness variations in the pixels and stores them as a number. That means that the picture coming out of your digital camera
Looks
is
familiar?
a very long string of numbers that describe all the pixels that the image contains. And while film images were essentially analog, the beauty of images from a digital camera is that they are digital. You can upload them onto your computer and into programs like Adobe Lightroom or Photoshop to manipulate them. And by doing this, the program is essentially just changing and adjusting that long string of numbers we mentioned earlier that represent each and every pixel in the image. So, to sum up, a digital camera works by letting light through a lens that focuses light rays onto the image sensor that is exposed by a shutter mechanism at the press of the shutter button. The sensor then does a whole lot of image processing to convert those light rays into usable digital information that is then presented to us in the form of a digital image. Thanks for listening, and tune in to the next lesson where we...
Yeah, he had to have his plug in for his YouTube channel. So, before we leave this slide, so as you see here, there's a little sensor here.
Yeah.
Which sensor size do you think this matches up to?
This is the first thing I've ever
The
used.
second one.
The second row? Okay. Which one out of the three here?
The third one. I would say the first one, like the third one on the first row.
So this is technically all right, but because of different camera brands, they're slightly different. So I do want to talk about this because we will be touching back on it later, but it's important to know. So this camera, which has this little sensor, is this same kind of sensor that's in your phone, but your phone has like a really tiny one, super tiny one. There's different sizes of sensors. This is called full frame, which is 35 millimeters. Then you have APS-C, which is even smaller. This is this one. Then you have micro 4/3, which is even smaller than this, maybe about half the size of it. And then you got even smaller ones. Your iPhones, your smartphones are going to be most commonly like this. So, I brought this up. Why do you think that matters? Size. Cool. Any ideas? No? No? Alright, I'll tell you. The bigger the size, the more space the pixels on this are exposed to light, which means more of an image can be captured, and it technically requires less artificial light in order to capture the image. Okay? Which is why sometimes when you take a photo on your cell phone, it might turn out really grainy, or you take a photo on a professional camera, it'll come out a little better. We'll be touching back on this sensor subject in a couple of lessons, so this is a good thing just to talk about right now.
Function differently. On a very basic...
So, how do you think the ability to instantly review and share photos has changed photography?
I think it played a role in animation, such as stop motion.
Okay, true. That's kind of correct. But this is more, now we're in the information age where we can just send things as much as we want. How do you think being able to instantly, like if I were to take a photo review right now, you're able to instantly see it and then share it, how do you think that impacts photography and society as a whole?
It shares information faster.
Okay. Any other ideas?
Like journalists. Sure.
Okay. Leslie?
I feel like it helped the news more, like because everyone
Yeah, information is faster and we hear about stuff and we react to things even faster. It also kind of affects our attention, but actually, now that we're talking about attention, let's talk about social media. So photography and social media. In today's age of digital cameras and smartphones, photography has become a major influence on our culture, both digitally and physically. In particular, let's look at the internet and how it was shaped by photography. So, can anyone name these platforms for me? We got the big one, which is
Instagram.
okay. I know it's right on the thing. Anyone know what this one is?
I don't know.
This one's a little bit more niche.
Never heard of that app.
This is called Labs, actually. And what's cool about Labs, most of the photographers use it. It's basically you're taking a film photo on your phone, so it kind of has a film kind of look to it. The weird thing is, it will randomly develop the photo. So you kind of just have to wait and kind of guess and see when it's going to finish. It also has a whole sharing platform, stuff like that. So it's kind of like Instagram and film photos into one. Anyone know what this is?
Pinterest.
Awesome.
Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah, Facebook, where
And
moms believe
Snapchat.
everything.
And Snapchat.
Yeah, that's
We usually use Snapchat all the time.
So out of all these, which one depends on photos the most?
Instagram, I think.
I would actually say
Social-
Snapchat.
Yes.
Snapchat, you gotta send photos. Which one has the most polished content?
Instagram, probably.
There you go. Instagram. Instagram began as a photo sharing platform. Facebook here was more of kind of like a vlog kind of style of a day in my life. Pinterest, how do you think Pinterest helped and combine with photography?
I've seen ads for it, and it shows about looking for inspiration.
Mm-hmm. That's just art. And then Be Real. Be Real's kind of weird because you have to. I believe it notifies you when you need to take a picture if you want to keep your streak, and so it kind of keeps your attention to see if you want to keep your streak. So think of a photo that has recently gone viral on social media. What story did it tell, and why do you think it had such an impact? This can be from an actual photo to a meme you saw. I bring up memes, kind of like memes. So.
I do like memes too.
What about you?
I don't have social media, so I
No?
don't really know.
Okay, that's fine.
I sometimes look up on the internet and find very cursed images, like a foot with one toe.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, people post that stuff.
I don't really.
Leslie?
I feel like the only picture that I've seen that got viral now is the one where TikTok shut down.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't hear
people
any
were
of that.
freaking out about that. Ooh, you should have seen the staff that day. Ooh. Mia?
I don't really have social media
No?
either, so.
Okay.
I would also agree with the TikTok. My whole family went crazy with it
Really?
too. My siblings
only have
deleted it,
YouTube.
so they're hating why they can't read them.
They deleted it? Oh, well, I'm not gonna like. So, even though it came back, you can't actually download it from the App Store.
True.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
see everyone
TikTok and
selling
other
their
buy
phones.
Yeah, it's creating this weird economy where actually GameStop is buying the phones with TikTok and selling them for a markup.
Oh yeah, I've
See,
seen that.
photography impacted that as well.
Oh yeah, I've seen that in marketing too.
So, the future of photography. What comes next? So, let's talk about emerging technologies. As you look to the future of photography, technology will continue to advance the art form to new horizons. Here are some fascinating developments recently. So, anyone know what ChatGPT is?
Yeah,
you all have heard of it. So AI generators like ChatGPT have sparked a whole new style of photography, AI generated art.
I would like to state that I am entirely against using ChatGPT.
So, let's give ChatGPT a prompt. It can generate images for us. What do we want to generate?
It steals art from other human artists.
We'll talk about that in a second. First, we want to generate something. Let's say.
I'm entirely against using the idea.
Let's say.
I'm very bitter about it.
Generate for me a dog skateboarding.
I do not want to take a look at that.
So you can see where it covers.
Yeah, this was a bitter taste in my mouth.
So we're going to take a second.
It steals from other artists.
We're going to talk about that.
Ooh, that looks kind of huge. And
I
awesome.
know. So actually, it's like, well, I like it, but it seems a little bit too saturated. So give me 3 different versions.
So it's basically like texting except it's AI.
Hmm?
It's basically like texting except it's AI communicating.
Well, it's not that it's texting, it's more, oh, look at that one. That one's really cute. So, the reason why I want to bring this up is because AI is here to stay. And yes, there are some big problems about AI using inspiration from artists in order.
It doesn't use inspiration from artists, it steals!
Alright, we're going to have to use our envoy voice here.
Calm down.
But I understand where you're coming from. People do consider it stealing sometimes. Because people
Because
do.
it is.
Because people do make a living with this. You know, there is a whole copyright, copyright, which is important, the integrity of people's work, and there actually are things being put in place to make sure that certain things don't happen. Like for example, if I told it, hey, I want you to generate an image of Batman in a sombrero playing the guitar. I tried that once. It was a Halloween costume idea. Don't get me started. It actually, you know what it told me? It told me, sorry, we can't do the copyright guidelines. The truth is AI is here to stay. We've exited the information age, and now we are going into the AI age. We're already past stage one, where simple things like, oh, if I give you a problem and it's going to solve it for me. Now we're going to generate images and videos, and soon we're going to get to the point where we're going to have machines that are powered to AI and stuff like that. And so as a photographer, you know how to embrace it. So AI is here to stay, and it's going to be a new art style.
I do not trust AI to be an art style.
It's okay.
I am completely against it. This just makes me very mad.
I hear you.
Calm down your rage, please.
Huh?
Calm down.
I hear you. You're not the only one that is a little bit mad about AI. And that's okay. Remember what I said about we have a natural idea to doubt new technologies?
I am not going to trust it.
That's fine. So, let's talk about 3D photography. Now, 3D photography is different from AI photography. 3D photography redefined the whole concept of taking a photo. So we have products like Insta360. So how this works is that it has a huge 180-degree camera on each side. And so it's capturing both sides of the image. So it's capturing both sides of the image. There's little like split lines, and then they give you some software, and you're able to move around and time the things in order to look at what you want it to track, what you want to see. So how does it impact photography? Well, now you can bring it, and you don't have to necessarily think about your specific angle. You should, though. We'll talk about that at a later date. But it allows you, let's say, oh, maybe I missed something back there, and now I can reframe it, and I look right there. Thanks to technology. Anyone heard of the Las Vegas Sphere?
Let me show you how to block this ad. First, you're going to click on this video, then you're going to download it's an ad blocker. That's the
With its opening back in September of 2023, the Las Vegas Sphere has set a new benchmark in the entertainment industry. The experience inside is next level, with a screen that spans across the entire ceiling, haptic seats, and a sound system that sends different audio tracks to each individual seat. The Sphere can even generate wind and scents. Sitting here should make you feel like a part of the movie or show that you're watching. And to achieve that, no expense or effort was spared. They literally spent $2.3 billion on creating this next level cinema experience. But how does all of this actually work? Let's take a look behind the curtain of the Sphere and explore the different technologies that make it happen. For this video, we partnered up with Jared Owen, who built a very detailed model of the Sphere. It's pretty impressive, so please go show some support on his channel as well. The Madison Square Garden Company, or MSG.
I'm gonna stop it, because I don't remember when it ends. But, so what's so special about the Sphere is that when they first built it, and they were trying to figure out, okay, how do we get media onto this thing? They had to take 6 cameras and put them like in this semicircle, all to get like this big field of view. That's very expensive.
Wow.
So because of the sphere and this new technology, it caused them to innovate, change their ways, and now they have this huge, it's called fisheye lens, which we'll talk about later when we get to lenses, and it basically captures an even wider, I think it's more than 180, it's like 230 degrees, and so it captures a big picture, and then they can reframe it, and then they can post it on the sphere.
Yeah.
And finally, in 3D photography, we got Google Maps here. Google Maps has helped us navigate to get from, let's say, from here to Seattle or to the capital, you know. And what's great about Google Maps is that actually they've done 3D, they always do 3D maps of the world. So let's say if I was going to type in Central Online Homeschool isn't on, isn't on Google Maps, but Tilly Elementary is. We're going to go in and look at that. I actually press the 3D button here. And now, it actually used to show the building that used to be here, which is crazy. Actually, no, we are right there. So 3D photography, remember our principle of taking a bunch of images and layering it? That's what it's essentially doing as well, but in a 3D space with multiple cameras. So if you're ever driving, keep your eye on the road, you'll probably see one of these things.
I don't believe AI art is real art, and I'm still mad at it.
I love that.
So finally, we got augmented reality. So augmented reality blends both AI and 3D photography together to revolutionize the future of communication. So everyone knows Apple, right? Have you heard of a company called Blackmagic? They are a video company that produces cameras, all sorts of things. Take out what they.
Apple announced a new camera called Blackmagic Ursa Cine Immersive at WWDC. They're also developing a complete workflow with DaVinci Resolve for producing Apple immersive video on Vision Pro. The Blackmagic Ursa Cine Immersive has impressive specs like high resolution, wide dynamic range, and shoots in Blackmagic RAW immersive format. It features a custom lens system and stores immersive lens data directly into the Blackmagic RAW file, streamlining post-production. DaVinci Resolve is being updated to become the world's first immersive video editor. New features include an immersive video viewer, editing directly on Apple Vision Pro, and bypassing transitions using XML metadata.
Vision Pro,
Export
these are really
presets will allow
expensive.
easy output
What
directly
about
compatible with Apple
BetaQuest's
Vision Pro.
VR headset?
Both the
You have one?
Blackmagic Ursa Cine Immersive and the new version of DaVinci Resolve are set to be released later
I
this
had to
year.
help him out with one. It was funny. It was my first time putting one as well. I was like, whoa.
My parents told me VR is dangerous.
It definitely is dangerous, but at the same time, it is a developing technology.
Although VR is awesome, but
It is definitely awesome. So, because of developing technology, now you're going to get this new type of media, you know, which might actually eliminate theaters as a whole. I mean, it's kind of similar to 3D movies, but now you can do it at the comfort of your home. So it could be the final nail in the coffin for movie theaters. So, how do you think photography will continue to change in the next 10 years? What kinds of images might we see?
Pretty disturbing ones, knowing that some people use AI to like show the private parts of
Okay.
numbers, stuff like that.
You make a good point, but at the same time,
I don't
AI is just a tool. At the end of the day, it's just a tool. There are no moral right or wrongs. It can't think for itself. And there's actually regulation in place, so stuff like that does not happen. And regulation will continue to be put in place to try to shape its development. Anybody else?
I'd say the images that we're going to see in the next 10 years is going to be 3D, not 2D anymore.
Yes, they're going to be definitely, you can actually, yes, we are getting to that point where you just upload an image and then it kind of creates like a Google Maps kind of version of that. I can definitely see, actually I believe it can do it already now. You can upload an image and ask it to edit in a certain style. It won't be the best, but like everything, baby steps.
I'm worried about the movie theaters.
Conclusion. In summary, photography has evolved from a complex process to an everyday tool that helps us communicate and express our experiences. It remains one of the most powerful ways to document, communicate, and create art. Photography helps us see the world in new ways, allowing us to tell stories and capture moments. So, what will you capture next? So, activity time. We're going to take a look at our cameras. I want you to grab one camera. They're going to be in the bags. We'll be showing you around of what's in the bag. And